Describe God. God is formless. God does not have form, so you can't describe him.
It's not man or woman. It's not anything. It's just something up there.
He's the creator. He's the person that you answer to when you leave this realm.
God could look like what you want the being to be. Sunshine.
An all-knowing, omniscient being.
He's the one that everybody worships, I guess.
I have no thought of God, so. I've never been to church before except for when I got married, so I don't think about him.
God is strong, very unique.
Powerful.
Kind, forgiving.
Judgmental.
Be gentle till you cross them.
Stern.
Far off, distant.
Cruel sense of humor.
He's probably like a father to a lot of people.
I really know nothing of, like about him, other than what I've learned in class and stuff like that, but I don't know whether to believe it or not. Who is God to me? God is something that, I don't know, I've grown to believe is just everywhere.
Sometimes I think he's good, sometimes I think she's bad.
Finding God's finding yourself to me.
Someone that you can always talk to, just everything to me.
He's a navigator, basically, you know what I mean? He helps people go through life, helps people keep sane.
If we need help, he's there to help us, and when we're looking for an answer, he has the answer, as long as we know where to look.
For me, God's a name in a lot of books, and people say it a lot, and that's about it.
I think he has a plan for all of us, and he's there to help us find it.
To me, God has guided me through everything, and God has always been there, and that's the one constant.
He's a big question mark for me. And I would like to believe, but I haven't had the sign yet. And I haven't had the feeling to step over and give up my life to God just yet. Waiting for a sign, I guess. Waiting for a sign, I guess. A sign, I guess.
Well, good morning. And as always, remember, this is the day the Lord's made. We'll rejoice and be glad in it. Now, I trust you had a very Merry Christmas. Oh, Miss Jane and I surely did. Our daughter Amy came over from the Marquette area, and we pigged out on all kinds of goodies. And by the way, we want to thank all those who sent us nice cards and gave us presents. And we realize, we know that we don't deserve any more than a lump of coal. Now, I've entitled today's sermon, The School of Fear, and it's taken from Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, which says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Now, folks, there's a lot of fear going on in the world today, but very little fear of the Lord here in America. That's why there's so many problems. Let me ask you something. Why is it important to fear God? You see, when people fear the Lord, they avoid evil. It's kind of like if you're driving down the road and there's a state trooper behind you, how many of you are tempted to just push down on the accelerator and see how fast you can go? We don't do it because we know pretty soon there'd be red and blue lights. Well, up here there'll be red lights flickering on you. You see, many people today don't fear God. because they don't believe he exists. G.K. Chesterton said, when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. I believe he's been proven right. You see, the media has always reported on people doing evil. But nowadays, what the Bible calls evil is being celebrated. Legislatures in New York cheered a late-term abortion law that they passed. What? We're confused. We're confused about genders. We're confused on pronouns. We're confused. We don't even know what bathroom we're supposed to use. I've got a news flash for you. God's Word says that there's only two genders, and you don't get to choose which one you are. He does that for you. Now, our culture values feelings over God's design. Well, why? Because America doesn't fear God, because it no longer believes in him. You may say, well, Brother Ray, the people in your church believe in God. Did you know this is terrible to say, but the majority of Americans will not be in church today? They won't. The vast majority don't see a need to. If they consider themselves Christian, the vast majority are what I call CME Christians. You know what CME stands for? No, it's not Christian Methodist Episcopal. CME is Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. Or CME. Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. So you need to understand, they no longer believe in God. They don't think it's necessary. And I believe this is the result of Soren Kierkegaard's existentialism, John Dewey's humanist philosophy, Darwinism, and the others found in a series called 7 Men Who Ruled the World from the Grave. By the way, that's from my friend Gary Varvel. You might say, what are you saying? Well, if there's no God, then there's no fear of judgment. That great evangelist in the 1800s, Charles Spurgeon, once said this: lower the law, and you dim the light by which man perceives his guilt. This is very serious loss to the sinner, rather than a gain. For if it lessens the likelihood of his conviction and conversion, I say you have deprived the gospel of its ablest auxiliary, its most powerful weapon, when you set aside the law. You've taken away from it the schoolmasters, or the schoolmaster that is bringing men to Christ. They'll never accept grace until they tremble before a just and holy law. Therefore, the law serves a most necessary purpose, and it must not be removed from its place. Now, Spurgeon knew what he was talking about. Look at America today. We've legalized dope in the form of cannabis. cannabis, and murder of unborn infants in the form of abortion. And we've done all of this so that mankind won't feel guilty. This is one reason why the fear of the Lord is so important. You know, I think about criminals looting stores and destroying property in major cities because they no longer fear justice. I mean, that's what the whole point of defunding the police is all about. Let the criminals take over. Maybe like Chicago back in the 30s. That's the 1930s, by the way. You know, the late Adrian Rogers made a good statement, and I've used this a few times in sermons. He said there are three kinds of people in the world today. Those who are afraid. Those who don't know enough to be afraid. And then the third kind, those who know their Bibles. I'm in that third category. Now, atheists and agnostics don't know enough to be afraid of a holy God. Let me ask you, which category are you in? Now, we need to understand there is the judgment of God. You know, today I hear things like judgment is coming. Matter of fact, not long ago, I don't even remember where we were, but I saw a guy standing on a street corner with a sign that said, judgment is coming. Matter of fact, I saw a guy doing the same thing in downtown Dallas years ago, back in the 60s or maybe early 70s. Had to be in the 60s, mid-60s, because I was in the Army, and he was standing out there with a sign, judgment is coming. Well, I tell you this, judgment is already here. With the hurricanes, the floods, the tornadoes, the forest fires, the earthquakes, the mudslides, as prevalent as they are, I believe judgment is here. I've been saying for the last 10 years, God's trying to get our attention. I think it has passed from Him trying to get our attention to Him saying, okay, you better hang on, because here goes. Judgment is here. You see, who controls all these things? Who controls hurricanes? Who controls floods, tornadoes, forest fires, earthquakes, mudslides? All of that. God does. Huh. We don't want to blame Him, so we blame ourselves because, after all, we've polluted the air so much that it's causing global warming, which causes all these things. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I believe we ought to blame ourselves, but it's not because of global warming. It's because of sin that has entered our nation. We've gone down that path of free sex, abortion, legalized pot, open homosexuality, all that kind of stuff. And now it's time to pay. Just like Israel in Daniel chapter 9, verse 13 and 14. By the way, let me say this. As God would have it, as I was having my quiet time, I was in the book of Daniel this past week, and I came across this. And God spoke to me and said, there you go. Listen to Daniel chapter 9, verse 13 and 14. As it's written in the law of Moses, all this disaster has come upon us, yet we've not made our prayers before the Lord our God. Doesn't that sound like the United States? It goes on, that we've not made our prayers before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand your truth. Therefore, the Lord has kept the disaster in mind. and brought it upon us. For the Lord our God is righteous in all the works which he does, though we've not observed his voice. In other words, we haven't done what he tells us we need to do. Put away sin. Turn from our wickedness. Now there is a movement now to do away with abortion, and I applaud that greatly. I don't know that it will ever become a reality, but I hope it does. That'll be one step toward that pendulum swinging back the way it needs to. We Christians have set back and not gotten involved. And that's the reason these things have taken place. I lay the blame right on our doorsteps. We've let it go because we don't want to bother with it. We've allowed the ungodly to reign over us because we don't want to be troubled. That's exactly what happened in Israel. It's time we get serious in our prayers before the Lord and turn from our sin and trust God to know his truth. We're told in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I'll hear from heaven and I'll forgive their sins and will heal their land. Let me say this. If you've been moved by this sermon to change, let me know. My information will follow here in just a moment. Just shoot me a line or give me a call. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to know that there's other people out there that are like-minded, that are saying, Lord, here am I, send me. Help me. I'm turning from my wicked ways. And I promise you, I'm turning toward you. Why, shucks, if you disagree with me, let me know. I'll still talk to you. Matter of fact, I'd like to talk to you. And I won't be argumentative or judgmental. I'll just share with you what God says. Now, if you have a problem with that, then you don't have a problem with me. You got a problem with God. Well, until then, God bless. Amen.